Adobo around the Philippines! We couldn't do this series without talking about adobo. If you read Pigafetta's journal, hey guys, who's Pigafetta? Quick little check here.
Ang alam ko, he's a famous songwriter. Singer-songwriter.
Pigafetta was basically someone who documented Magellan's voyage in the Philippines in the early 1500s. So it is one of the only written documents that we have that has a blow-to-blow basis of how the Philippines was pre-colonization when the Spanish arrived. And in there, in food, there's really not that much. But what we do know from the food that is there, a lot of the times when the Spanish would arrive, they'd be presented with a couple of options. But they also do talk a lot about pork or animals cooked in their own juices. So because of our penchant for sour foods, because of our penchant for oily foods, and because we know we're primarily a country that roasts and boils and steams, then people kind of say that could be the original adobo. So pork cooked in its juices. So today, that's why we're doing it, because adobo is very central to the Philippines. There is that probably one, initial recipe where everything stemmed for, but today we have thousands of versions. So we're each going to be making our own versions as traditionally as possible from the provinces and regions that they are from. I'll go first. I'll start with the most basic, kind of closest to pre-colonial adobo that we have, and everyone else is going to follow after. Let's get cooking. It's always very difficult to call something pre-colonial or to call something the first or the original. Obviously, food, just like history, is kind of fluid, and it's really tough to kind of pinpoint something. The word adobo in itself and how we call it nowadays is a quote-unquote Spanish iteration. It probably wasn't called that, obviously. We had our own words for it. So I can't even tell you what this dish was quote-unquote originally called. So if I can't do that, I can't tell you how it was originally cooked. What we can do is assume. Just like a lot when it comes to Filipino culture, we have to put in a lot of assumptions based on the culture that we have today to assume what our history was because of a lack of written materials and history in general. So through that process, we can kind of say in very simple terms, the original kind of recipe for an adobo would call for boar or pork nowadays in its own juices. So we have some lard over here, some salt because we've been a salt-producing nature, water, highly available, garlic and bay leaves, questionable, right? So garlic, we're not exactly sure when it came in. Usually you'd have some peppercorns in here as well, but as we know, pepper is not necessarily native to the Philippines. And then bay leaves. If you have spent some time in markets in Dumaguete or Cebu, you will see a bay leaf that doesn't look like a bay leaf, but it's still called laurel. But it is believed to be a native bay leaf to the Philippines and not the bay leaf that the Spanish brought. So that's why I'm going to integrate it today. But I'm going to try to keep everything as traditional and as authentic as possible. Using a palayok here, I'm going to grab my lard and I'm just going to spread it on the bottom here. When you ask people around the Philippines what they know about adobo, I'm pretty sure 70 to 80% of them eat their adobo with soy sauce, but that is an integration that came in only when the Chinese started trading with us, right? So that's why in general, I have a very hard time calling anything authentic or anything original because of how Filipino history kind of unfolded. That's just how our cuisine is. So it's very important that we accept everyone's kind of point of view when it comes to the food, and we just respect each other's way of doing things. So there's a lot of lard there. It's going to render out even more lard because we're going to add our pork. Then we're going to take our pork pieces, layer those in kind of really tightly. Now up to you if you want to keep the skin on, keep it off, really your call. I kind of like that chewy skin. Lots of garlic. That's a personal preference of mine. Make sure that that's in between the pork as well. Bay leaves, generous rock salt, some water, not to cover, just halfway because you will be generating more liquid as the fat kind of renders out. Something that we've been producing as long as we've been producing alcohol, which is a long time and definitely pre-colonial, our vinegar. This, I believe, is a Nipa palm vinegar. I highly suggest when you do make adobo at home, try out different vinegars to figure out what kind of vinegar you like in your adobo. Low heat for 15 minutes. We're gonna let that vinegar kind of cook down a little bit without stirring it. We're then gonna let that go for about 10 to 15 minutes. Cover it, let that go for a further hour. Check on it if we're happy where it is. You can eat it then, or you can go ahead and cook it down further. Okay, so now we are in my test kitchen at home, and while I was kind of cooking some recipes, I realized, hey, we haven't shown you what the adobo looks like. So I have it right here. As you can see, it is insane how much fat was eventually rendered out of all that pork and obviously cooking things with lard. So previously, I guess in times before refrigeration, confying something or keeping something in lard or fat was a way of preservation, especially there is some vinegar in there and some salt. So you could potentially keep this outside as long as it's kind of like completely covered with fat. Ours isn't fully kind of submerged in fat, which means if you'd want to do that, you'd probably have to add way more lard than is warranted or maybe necessary. It comes with flavor. But like this in the fridge will keep for a long, long time. So now we're gonna go ahead and fry it up. So we went straight into putting it in the jar, and we haven't actually tasted it yet. And the reason behind that is, this is the type of food that really just does so much better the longer it's kind of kept. And just keeping it overnight like that before actually eating it will probably just really give us such amazing flavor. Everything here is cooked, obviously, so all we're asking to do here is add a little bit of color and some crispiness to the overall dish. The fat you can put back into the jar if you want to, or you can serve it on rice, which is the best way of doing it. It's crunchy where it needs to be. We can taste that fat. It almost is like collagen-y in texture. And those burnt bits that kind of just stuck to the pan, it's like automatic adobo flakes. So you made your pre-colonial adobo and adobo flakes at the same time. That is so good. And I would not be able to finish this plate. It's just, it's almost too much in terms of flavor. That is very heavy, but delicious. Okay, now let's check out the next adobo recipe.
So next, we are gonna be making adobo in the style of Cebuanos. So I got this recipe from Romaine. This is how Cebuanos make adobo, but later on, papakita ko sa inyo ang isang variation on how Romaine makes it with her family.
So Adobong Bisaya is different from any other adobos in the country because it's dry, it's crisp, and cooked in its own oil. Now, disclaimer, it varies from household to household, so there's not one particularly correct recipe for this. You have to have pork belly, salt, garlic, bay leaf, or bay leaves, and then a little bit of vinegar.
So traditionally, this is how Cebuanos make adobo. But today, yun na nga, it varies from families to families. So mag-add tayo, according to Romaine's family, ng onions and counting spring onions.
So in a cold pot, you put all the ingredients in.
So we will let this marinate for about a day or overnight. Then we are gonna cook it. Okay, so it has been about 15 minutes and natanggal na most of our liquid. Now at this point, hindi pa siya ganong tender. So what Cebuanos do is they put water.
Let the water evaporate, and then after that, you let the pork render its own fat or oil, so it's gonna be like a confit. So let it cook until it's golden brown, and once you get a thin but crisp skin and fat layer, that's already good to go.
Okay, so for today's taste tester, tatawagan natin si Chef Martin!
Hey!
At birthday din niya ngayon.
Editor, pakilagyan na lang ng mga
Happy birthday.
mga clap-clap.
Hindi, confetti. Sana ikaw ay masaya sa aking regalo ngayon.
Ang ganda!
The reason why I called you out, kasi ikaw yung gumawa ng previous Cebu Humba natin.
Ay, oo nga.
Remember that?
So, matagal na kulo, tapos prito hanggang...
Yeah. It's
What?
like confit.
Oh.
Yeah. And then,
Do you eat it with...
I prefer to eat it with this.
Pero traditionally,
It's good on its own.
I love this.
How would you differentiate it with adobong puti?
Well, yung itong adobo mo kasi, it's very obvious where the where the saltiness comes from. And you can totally feel the difference if patis was used salt or soy. And obviously, since it's like dried out, parang mas maalat siya. I'm not saying it's like uncomfortably salty, but
It's like it has a lot of Maillard.
yeah.
Yeah. And did you like the touch of vinegar and
Yeah.
onions? So Cebuanos have this a lot, especially in Punko. So adobo in Cebu, approved?
Yeah. I love it.
I'm going to be making the Ilonggo take of the classic adobo, which is Adobong Pula. This recipe is from Marge Uy, my tita, who is from San Joaquin, Iloilo.
Ini nga recipe adobo sa istiwitis or adobo na pula. Traditional family recipe ini siya. Halin ini siya sa lola ko nga mahilig papiesta kahit hindi fiesta, especially sa time nga kapagarap sang palay.
So for our first step, we have to make the achiote solution. We have here exactly 2 cups of water and 2 tablespoons of achiote seeds.
Kinanglan, ibabad mo anay ang istiwitis mo, which is ang istiwitis na gamiton dapat seeds para nga makuha natin ang pinaka-aroma sang istiwitis.
And on the other hand, while we are doing our achiote solution, we are gonna be boiling our pork.
Ilagaon mo na siya anay mga 5 minutes para makuha ang impurities. Then, i-fry mo na siya dito. Wala ka gamiton, mantika. Painit ka lang sa kawali. Ibutang mo na hangin mo. Dara nga pork, no? Hasta nga the golden brown siya para makapag-produce ka man sa mantika.
So from the oil na nakuha natin sa pork, this is what we're gonna use for the whole recipe.
So, ang imo nga mga ingredients para magisa, amo na siyang ahos, sibuyas, tsaka luya. Fine it siya, up na siya. Then, ibalik mo ang pork mo to kagina nga pag golden brown mo siya. Amo na to pagbutang mo dayon sang imo nga 2 cups sang water nga may nga istiwitis. And then hayaan mo na siya nga magkulo nga nasa 30 minutes.
It's been 30 minutes. Check na natin yung ating adobong pula. Woo! As you can see, nawala na yung tubig natin. It's time to add our sukang tuba.
Ang langgaw naton, since traditional family recipe ni siya, langgaw na siya nga sang tuba. Hindi mo sa paglugay yun, pagbutang mo sang suka, hayaan mo lang na siya na mga 5 minutes. Amo na sa paglugay mo, pagtimpla mo sang asin, kag sugar. And then, ibutang mo na ang imo, dira nga paminta, na amo lang na ang pinaka nga ingredients. Gamay lang gin. Ang tanan nga ingredients nga na amo lang gid na ang mahatag sa pinaka-unique nga sang adobong istiwitis kay nga wala siya sa mga taste enhancer nga ginabutang.
Bango! I'm so excited to try this. So I'm gonna call on Seth Boy to try it with me.
I'm so excited. I really want to try it. Can I just say that the color is really appealing? Like, sobrang nakakatakam siya. Like, parang, ay, malasa to. Diba? I'm gonna go in for a little bone because I kind of like that juiciness. Okay, let's try it.
Crispy.
Sarap.
Hindi ko malasahan masyado yung ginger. Hindi matapang yung ginger. Hindi rin malakas yung tuba.
You can really get that caramelized sugar flavor because you kind of pinatuyo mo siya ng konti. Sobrang sarap niya. Kaya, alam mo yung saying na masarap kainin pag nagkakamay. Parang ganun yung vibes niya.
Gusto ko ng kanin. Thank you, Tita Marge, for the recipe. I love it.
Tita Marge just was crazy. So good.
Thank you.
So, according to our sources, Adobong Bicolano, the biggest thing there is gata. So it has that, but it is also seasoned with patis and not salt. And they also use sukang tuba or coconut vinegar for the acid.
Adobo sa gata is something that you may consider as distinctly Bicolano with the addition of coconut milk or gata plus siling haba.
So the first thing that we're gonna do is heat up some oil here in our palayok. So before we use this, always remember if you're gonna use food grade palayoks is you have to soak it in water overnight or at least 30 minutes just so it doesn't break when it's in contact with heat. I'm just gonna heat up some oil. Low, low, yan. And then while waiting, I'll marinate my pork in some patis. We will just brown our pork belly. Just brown it on all sides and we can move on with the recipe.
Adobong gata has the same ingredients as a regular adobo recipe. Pork belly, garlic, chili peppers, peppercorns, bay leaves.
And of course, paano tayo magbe-braise kung walang tubig? Some water. Then some sukang tuba or coconut vinegar. So we'll simmer this for around 30 minutes until the pork is rendered and very tender, and then we'll add our gata. This is kakang gata, but this is fresh. This didn't come from a can. So kakang gata, yun yung unang piga natin sa nyog kapag nag-request tayo.
And towards the end of cooking it, we add liputo o kakang gata. Once creamy, the adobong gata is ready to serve.
So our adobong Bicolano's done, and geez, it oiled out. even the gata. You could have probably simmered it less right after the adding your gata. I'll have someone taste it with me today. Baka kasi biased ako. So, Ins, come here. My friend from Bacolod.
Ooh, this is so
Ang
soft.
intense. I love it.
Wow. I can taste the gata.
Yeah, I think I like the gata. You know, I feel like this type of adobo would be the most perfect with the rice. Next.
Today, I'm gonna be making Batangas adobo sa dilaw. So, bakit nga ba siya tinatawag na adobo sa dilaw? Kasi meron siyang special ingredient which is the turmeric root. So, ito yung nagpapadilaw sa ating adobo. And I had a chance to speak to our resource person. So, si Chef Mike Latayan from Batangas. So, actually, sa kanya yung recipe na to na gagawin ko ngayon.
Ang pagluluto ng adobong dilaw dito sa amin sa Batangas ay kaparehas lang din ang pagluluto ng adobo sa ibang lugar. Yun nga lamang, hindi namin ginagamitan ng toyo. Suka ito at binababad ng siguro mga 1 oras.
So, sa lahat ng prepare natin na ingredients, we're just going to half that one. And then that's what we are going to use for our marinade. Half of the garlic, onion, peppercorn, some bay leaf, our turmeric, and our suka.
Lalo na kapag ginamitan natin ito ng sukang gawa sa kaong. Ito yung nagpapasarap lalo ng adobo. Lalo dito sa amin sa probinsya, hindi kami gumagamit ng mga artificial na suka. Kaya siguro yung adobo namin, kakaiba ang lasa.
Our meat has now been marinating for 30 minutes and it's now time to cook our adobo. So sabi ni Chef na
Mas masarap ang adobo kapag niluto ito sa kahoy. Kumbaga, lumalabas ang aroma nito.
since wala tayong kahoy ngayon, gagamitin naman natin ang palayok. So in our pot, we're just going to saute our garlic, then our onions. It's time to add our pork. So, yung taba talaga, tina-target ko siya na dun talaga siya sa ilalim para marirender yung mismong fat sa kawali. Tapos, yung marinade natin kanina, isasama natin sa pagbuhos. Our pork is now partially cooked. Time to add. Ito yung natirang luyang dilaw kanina, some bay leaves, and the rest of our peppercorns. Lagay naman natin ang ating chicken. And yung natira nating sukang irok kanina.
Ang pinagkaiba lang naman ito sa proseso ng pagluluto, ito ay hindi nilalagyan ng tubig. Sa iba kasing adobo, nilalagyan nila ng tubig. Ito yung sariling katas niya ang ginagamit para siya ay maluto. Yun yung kinalakihan ko siguro ng dito sa amin sa probinsya na kahit saan mo lutuin ito, masarap at masarap pa rin ang adobo. Lalo na dito sa probinsya, hayahay at payapa ang pamumuhay.
As you can see, our meat is now stained with the luyang dilaw. And I'm so excited to give this a try. Pero gusto ko siyang i-share. Kaya I'm calling Trish, our resident taste tester, to test and taste my adobong. My adobong dilaw. Ay, actually, kay Chef pala to. Chef Mike na adobong dilaw. Sa kanyang recipe.
All right. Ooh, that's really soft, Nika. Is it your first time to try this also?
Actually, yeah. I haven't tried adobong dilaw yet. Kaya I'm very excited to give it a try.
Oh, yeah. The turmeric gives it a different taste.
I like how you could still taste parang yung vinegar, may tang pa din siya.
Try yung lasa ng vinegar
Pero
niya.
subtle tang lang yung nabibigay niya. And then may konting sweetness. Distinct talaga yung lasa ng turmeric. It gives that earthy and warm na taste, right? And then slightly peppery. Parang nagko-complement siya sa garlic and sa bay leaves.
Ang lambot, yun lang masasabi ko. And I feel like it's different from the usual adobo that we eat. Like yung mga Filipino-style adobo na you think na brown, darker color.
Yeah, yung may soy sauce.
Yeah.
Yes.
This one gives it a different flavor. I like this.
Me too.
Thank you, Chef.
Pwede ko na siyang maging staple sa bahay.
Ang tanong, dilaw na bang ipin ko?
No. You're good.
What's up, guys? I'm here. I'm gonna make Adobong Puti, specifically the Kapampangan version. I mean, there's a lot of Adobong Puti around the Philippines, some in Batangas, some in Ilocos, some in Bulacan. And my dad is from Pampanga, so this recipe is sort of kind of inspired by that. And I got some help from Chef Cherry. Let's go and start. I'm gonna be using a palayok, so we're gonna get as traditional as it can be. I'm just gonna add some oil around the side. So just maybe a little touch over here.
So, ang aming adobo talaga dito sa Pampanga, pag sinabi mong adobo, it means puti siya. Ang sangkap niya ay suka, bawang, paminta. Yun lang. At saka yung karne, pwedeng baboy, pwedeng manok.
So I'm doing one large onion, chucking that in. I got some pepper, let's shake that in. A little salt. Add my garlic. Some vinegar. And you don't stir the vinegar. You kind of want to cook off that acidity and, you know, bring out some of that natural sweetness that the vinegar has when it's cooked down. So I'm using bay leaves. Chef Cherry told me that they use gulgol traditionally, but, you know, bay leaves can be used for a little aroma and just a little pampagana ng kain. So from there, I'm just going to put a little lid on this, put it a little low, let that render down and cook, and we're just going to shake it from time to time.
Ang adobong puti, unang-una, ito ay isang ulam. At masarap ito, lalong sumasarap pag iniinit hanggang matutuyo na siya na parang napiprito na sa sarili niyang mantika. So you enjoy adobong puti the first day na niluto mo siya kasi may sabaw siya. The next day, pag nag-solidify na yung kanyang collagen, pag ininit mo siya until matuyo siya, mapiprito siya sa sarili niyang mantika, masarap pa rin siya.
Yung, alam mo yung term sa amin nito, sa Bisaya, huboy-huboy.
What does it mean?
Para siyang yung nagja-jiggle. Yung ano, huboy-huboy.
I think I did a pretty good job. I mean, considering that we use a palayok, you know, like it's not super controlled most of the time. So sometimes it gets too hot, sometimes it gets too low. So you gotta really watch it.
Wow. Tastes so clean.
Yeah. Even with the fact na ang daming fat and oil around it, hindi siya nakakaumay.
Sobrang clean, and then yung vinegar na ginamit mo, may ano talaga siya, yung distinct na acidity na nadadagdag sa sa adobo.
You think you're using a lot of vinegar, but then you're cooking off a lot of the acidity. So like, natitira yung subtle sweetness that just enhances the taste.
May subtle sweetness na. Did you add sugar? Wala.
No sugar at all. I was supposed to, and then I was like, you know what, let's try it the way it should be, without sugar.
I wanna try with...
Try this one, the dark peas. Yeah, that one's crazy. Yeah. Now I regret not having this with rice.
So clean, super simple, pero packed with flavor.
Amazing. Dad, this one's for you. Lolo, Lola, everyone in Pampanga. Mwah. Thank you, Chef Cherry.
Today,
I'm representing the province of Bohol, specifically in Loon. We have a family friend and someone who we've known for years who gave us this recipe, and I'm so excited to show you guys how their adobo is made over there.
Maalala ko yan, yung ulam na adobo na yan, lalo na kung pista. Medyo maramihan ang luto nyon. Talagang pinapatuyo ng husto yun. Ang sarap talaga nun, ang adobo na yan.
And syempre, the star of our adobo, ito ang tuba, also known as coconut wine.
Sa amin kasi sa probinsya, malayo kami sa bayan, malayo kami bibili ng mga recados. Tuba kasi ang pinapangunahin talaga naming preservative ng niluluto.
Umpisa natin ang ating recipe by boiling our pork. And we're gonna put a little bit of salt on this as well.
Papakuluan ng lula ko yan sa tubig. 15 to 20 minutes habang kumuano siya. Tatanggalin nyo muna yung karne, tapos magisa muna siya ng sangkap. Sibuyas, bawang, tapos ilagay yung karne. Medyo pagka pumupula na yung karne, ilagay yung tuba.
Alright, medyo nag-brown na ang ating pork. It's time to put in the star of the show. Here is our coconut wine. Sinabi sa akin, I have to specifically find the red coconut wine. Ay, kala ko may I'm gonna put 1 cup in.
Yung pait ng tuba, habang kumukulo, nawawala po yung lasang pait. Magiging matamis siya habang kumukulo. Tapos doon mo na siya lalagyan ng panimpla. Ibabalance mo na yung lasa. Tuyo, paminta at saka dahon ng laurel. Mayroon siyang asukal na pula.
Let us reveal our adobo sa tuba. Woo! The sauce has thickened and the pork is much more tender than it was a while ago. It's time to plate!
Yung sauce talaga niya, pagka maganda yung pagkaluto niya, medyo malapot siya at manamis-namis. Yun talaga yung finished product, maging siyang malapot siya.
This looks and smells amazing and I can't wait to try it. Pero syempre, hindi lang ako pwede mag-isa kakain ng adobo. Tatawagin ko ang aking kaibigan na si Samuel.
Bakit ka tumatawa?
Nakikita kita natatawa.
Okay. Parang you're 1 episode late. Ano to? Adobo rumba? Ha?
Adobo yan!
Okay.
Adobo sa tuba siya. So they told me that they use tuba in Bohol for their adobo kasi that's what's prominent in the area.
Is that the reason why it's sticky?
Well, there's also sugar in it.
Cue in music.
You know what?
Humba talaga.
It tastes similar to Chinese adobo. It's sweet, but there's a taste of soy. Kulang na lang may eggs. And I can tell someone it's Chinese adobo.
I'm not gonna lie, this is how I make adobo din eh. Ganito na ganito.
Yeah.
Nagsisplit. Very, very sticky. And very, very tender.
This is how I love my adobo also. As in, mapapakanin ka talaga.
As you can see, same as the Humba thing last time. Many ways to cook adobo, and we did 7 times. But my personal favorite was the one from Cebu. I like how it's crisped up. Sobrang sarap.
Sarap.
Tsaka dami. Hinihingal ako.
Soak up lahat.
Yun ay exercise ko ng mga 3 months.
My personal favorite would be the Bohol because it's just how I make my adobo. And the Dilaw, of course.
Actually, same.
Yeah?
When you found love na ako for Adobong Dilaw, favorite ko kasi yung adobo sa puti versus that what we used to na may soy sauce. So, I like both. I like this one, the one with achwete. I feel like it's very different. I've never seen one like it, and it also tastes like the not so usual adobo.
Okay.
Ako sa akin yung adobong puti din kasi mahilig ako sa maasim.
So honorable mention yung pre-colonial natin. It's so simple and it's really cool to learn facts about Mr. Pigafetta. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed the video and let us know what more 6
ways you want.
Oh, ang gusto nyo, 6 ways hotdog?
Corned beef.
6 ways corned beef? Ang dami.